Good evening and welcome to the FE Bar. We are only 2 weeks away. We've nearly made it, everybody. Soon we'll be racing in Sao Paulo. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Jack Pickering and someone who will actually be in Sao Paulo. It is Tom Brooks. We're excited to have him on, and also later in the show we will be we'll be looking back at The Apprentice that happened and having a look at all the comedy of errors that went in that show. This is the FE Bar. I'm your host, Jack George Maynard, and Pico, come to you first. How's things going?
Someone's come between us, Jack. No, it's good. It's been a long break. Not one that was planned, but happy to get back into it.
Tom, how have you been spending your 7 weeks?
Oh, doing pretty much everything I can to just keep myself busy. You know, I was kind of toying with the idea of like, do I go away or not? But I'm like, actually, I've got some time at home, so I'm going to enjoy some time at home. So I've been doing a lot of baking. I've been cooking. I've been trying to teach myself new things and all of that sort of fun stuff. Looking after my cats, which is a full-time job in itself because of the amount they ruin my furniture. But other than that, pretty much just keeping myself busy and getting ready for Sao Paulo now.
Oh, you have to talk to me about baking, right? I make a mean white chocolate mousse. What have you been learning?
Oh, okay, right. So what have we done? I've done mini egg brownies. I've done Jammy Dodger blondies. That was the other week.
Nice.
Hang on a minute. I did some regular brownies. Yeah, they were absolutely deadly. So they were. I've just been trying to keep myself busy, which is ironic because I've been on a bit of a health kick this year. I've finally decided to get my arse in gear and start going to the gym and be healthy. So then make all of these sweet treats and I can't bloody eat the things. So I've just been giving them off to my neighbours. Whilst their waistlines are expanding, I'm there trying to slim down.
Oh no, brilliant! No, because I've been learning to cook. Gordon Ramsay got me into cooking. That's my cooking. But white chocolate mousse that came from him, it's a meme one. If you ever looking to try and do something new, white chocolate mousse from Gordon Ramsay. Oh, super del.
Strawberry raspberry cheesecake is my speciality.
Did you? Because it was your birthday Friday, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Tom.
I was, yeah. I was turned 27, believe it or not. 27. Who'd have thought I got? I know. Who'd have thought I'd get there? Not me. So there you go.
Yeah. Did you do anything interesting for your birthday? Celebrating? What cake did you make yourself? Did you make yourself a cake?
No, do you know I didn't? I actually ordered this local bakery to me, and they make these cookie pies, and it's got this really thick layer of caramelized white chocolate in the middle, which it's literally pure sugar. Honestly, you just by the end of one slither, which is about as thick as one of my fingernails, honestly you're in a coma. So. Yeah, I was dealing with the diabetic coma on Friday, and then went out for a curry with some friends and got really drunk. So I had a massive hangover on Saturday because I'm 27 and I can't handle my alcohol anymore.
Yeah, well, I could never handle my alcohol when I'm 28. So there you go. But let's get started then in terms of just a couple of questions. Basically, I kind of want to start with Formula E in general. You kind of saw what you've been up to 7 weeks. Let's talk about getting the Formula E gig, actually. How did that come about?
Well, it's a bit of an interesting one. So there's a gentleman at Formula E called George Tidmars. Now, George and I have known each other for a few years. So rewind back to 2019. I was working on a rallycross championship that had just started out. Anyway, it was brand new, and they got this production company in that were, how do I put it politely, not up to the job. You were used to doing rallies and things and basically they were overstretched and under-resourced, and it wasn't necessarily their fault because the budget wasn't there. Anyway, they did the production for this, and it went out on Eurosport. Anyway, the production was not brilliant, so they sent a producer along, and George at that time worked for Eurosport, so that's how I met him. Anyway, that was 4 years ago, right? So we met there. And I sort of kept in semi-regular contact, as you seem to do, and this industry is very much about who you know. Sort of fast forward to the middle of last year, and I got a message from George, and he said, would you be interested in maybe doing some Formula E bits and bobs later on in the year? I was thinking, okay, well, sounds like it could be good fun. And then I got a call from him a little bit later on in the year, a few months later, thinking, nothing's going to happen. And then he said, actually, do you fancy coming on board and doing Rome? So I went and did Rome as a bit of an audition. Wasn't scheduled to do anything else, and got sort of pulled in by the head of broadcasting there, and he said, we really liked what you've done this weekend. Would you like to do London as well? And I was actually supposed to be racing myself that weekend in rallycross. So I thought, oh, well, what do I do? And I spoke to, my family and my then girlfriend, and said, what do I do on this? And they said, you've got to go and do it. So I was like, okay, all right. So Dad went and drove the race car. I went and did Formula E in London. And then, got offered the gig for this year. So that's kind of how it started and where we are today.
Wow, that's mad.
Out of curiosity, I want to ask, how did the rallycross race go with your dad in the car?
Well, it was the first event, and so we bought the car as a write-off. We built it up, put a new cage in it, went testing. After 2 laps, I blew the thing up. So that went down really well, as I'm sure you can imagine. Then we put a new engine in it, and we didn't have time to test it. So the first time racing it was its first test, basically. So I think Dad finished 6th overall, but that was only out of about 10 drivers. So he didn't do too badly, but yeah, there was room for improvement there, that's for sure.
Talk to me about, that's really interesting, like the rallycross and the motorsport side, because obviously we're all massively interested in motorsport, and obviously you're driving it with your dad too. I don't know if you remember the Top Gear episode, right, where they do the rallycross for the price of a golf clubs, right?
I was watching that one the other day.
I get the vibes from that. Like, talk to me, like, when did you get into motorsport? Like, when did you actually, want to be a driver or do rallycross? How did that story come about that, you're a rallycross driver?
I think like most people in motorsport, most commentators essentially, we're all frustrated racing drivers. And, I grew up watching Formula One with my granddad and my dad, and it was always on the telly. So my dad's a mechanic. He built my rallycross car for me, and he used to race before I was born. He was in the British Championships and was quite competitive. I think he was British champion one year in the production class. And so I grew up watching old VHS tapes of him. And I thought that would be really cool to do that one day. But as you know, the only way to make a small fortune in racing is to start with a big one. And we never had a big fortune. So we never went racing. I had a go-kart. We sold it because I looked at entry fees with my dad, and it was like 10 grand just to enter, for half a season. And then that's not including the upkeep and the tyres and all of those sorts of things. And, being 11 and not having a source of income, it was never really going to work out. So that was quite a short-lived dream. And then went and decided to become a commentator sort of in my mid-teens. Thought, that's kind of it as far as racing is concerned. Never really going to get into it. And then got very fortunate with my job with Gran Turismo that gave me a bit of time and also a little bit of disposable income. And I thought, well, now's the time to go and do it. So decided to go and do that. I think I was, how old would I have been? 21, 22 when I did my first event. So I was like really late coming into it. And I only do it at like a club level. So it's nothing, professional or anything like that. But I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite forms of motorsport to commentate on and to race in, and it's just really good fun.
Perfect. So you mentioned there like the Gran Turismo stuff. Like, obviously, how did that come about? And obviously that decision to become a commentator then in your teens, like how? I remember a friend at university, because I did a sports journalism degree, and he wanted to become a commentator, hasn't become a commentator, but that was his dream. His dream was to become a commentator, but he kind of didn't know where to start, right? And he thought, well, being a journalist, that's kind of one way to get in and go that way. He hasn't ended up being in that way. He's ended up in PR. But how did you sort of start thinking, oh, I want to be a commentator? And being commentators are hard. Like, I went to the Silverstone Museum with Pico, and you got like an area where you can practice being a commentator, and I was rubbish, right? As much as good as I wish I am in my head, I couldn't get the words out. So talk to me about that, starting, wanting to become a commentator, and then
just going to get the badge.
He's on brand.
On brand.
I'm glad there was a Silverstone Museum badge and not a Stone Island badge or something.
Exactly.
You're down causing a ruckus on a Saturday afternoon.
But yeah, how did the opportunity come about?
Yeah, but I kind of fell into the job by accident, really. So when I was a teenager, there was a radio station at my secondary school called Academy FM, and it was set up whilst I was at the school. It's a fully fledged radio station, community station, and it was just happened to be within a school for funding. Now, when I was a teenager, I had long hair, I was in a band, you could probably see some guitars over my shoulder. And I sort of didn't really fit in with anybody. So I just wandered into the radio station one day because we were doing, what were we doing? We were doing a project, and we had to make an advert for the radio. And I'm quite competitive by nature, frustrated racing driver, all kind of comes full circle. So I thought I'll go in and I'll meet the people there. And I kind of knew one of the guys, and I was quite lucky. My voice dropped at a young age. So he came to me and said, "Would you be interested in, doing a show?" So I got trained up and did a show, and then did another show, and so on. And I did that for like 3 years. And then when I was about 16, I was still at the station. I was still a student. And I was thinking, what do I want to do with my life? I didn't really know where I wanted to go. I'd studied business at school, but it was okay. But it was never really a passion as such. And I realized I couldn't hold a spanner for the life of me because the amount of bolts I'd rounded off and sheared and broken, and the amount of the frustration that I'd caused my dad in the garage was kind of like, it's probably not going to be a mechanic's life for me. So I just thought, well, I use my voice for a living, and I've always loved motorsport, so why don't I try commentating? So I just found this video of Schumacher doing a pole lap at Catalunya in 2004, I think it was. Went into one of the other studios, stuck the microphone up, hit record, and just added some commentary over it. Thought I'll give it a go and see if it works out, and put it on Facebook, and some friends quite liked it, and I did another, and then I did another, and I did another, and then I figured, right, okay, if I want to take this seriously, I need to get myself kind of out there. So I realized that networking was quite important. So I went to the Autosport show, and I made like some DVD show reels with different clips of stuff that I'd done at home, and handed them out to different commentators, so Crofty, David Addison, and so on and so forth, and just thought I'll give it to them, and if they give me some feedback, amazing, and my details are on the inside and so on, and if they don't, then they don't. Fine, I've not lost anything. And Crofty got back to me, actually. He was the only guy that did, which I was and always will be eternally grateful for. And gave me some really good feedback, and so just built from that, and that's kind of how it kind of all started, really, I guess, in a roundabout sort of way.
Awesome. Like, talk to me about that, because that's huge coming from Crofty, because at that time I would have reckoned Crofty, I don't know if he was at Sky at that point.
He was, yeah.
Was he at Sky? So he just started Sky. Oh, okay, it was 2015. God, even though I'm a year older now, it seems, I still remember the time when he was at BBC with Anthony Davidson. I used to love listening to 5 Live when those two were doing the commentary, and I thought that's when, like, that's where Crofty got his name. So getting someone like Crofty to give you some feedback, how vital was that? How did that shape you?
It was huge. It's amazing to have feedback from somebody so professional. I think David Addison was the first person I spoke to, because I can't remember how I knew him, but I knew him through somebody, and just sort of phoned him one day and asked him for some advice. And he said, you've got to be prepared to start at the bottom and kind of work your way up. So if you're doing circuit commentary and you're getting paid 100 quid a day, that's what you got to do, and that's how you build your skills. You can't expect to go in and do Formula One straight away, So that's kind of how it started. And then the feedback from Crofty, was kind of another stepping stone. And the thing I worked out quite early on is the industry is who you know. It's the relationship that you have with other people. And what you want to be is you want to be that person at the end of the phone when there's an opportunity there. So I just met anybody that I could, introduced myself, handed out business cards, got opportunities to come on online radio shows and, podcasts and stuff like that. So just did everything I could, commentated on things for literally nothing on endurance championships at 3 a.m. when nobody was watching, because I just wanted to get experience and get better. And I realized that in order to be able to be good at what I do, you need to have experience. So I just did everything that I possibly could and just tried to build on it step by step.
Yeah, Pico, got any questions? I think you're right.
One that I wanted to talk about, because you are an ex-Dorna person. You covered MotoGP and doing all that lot for a while. Like, how was like that little part of your time and your career so far? Because motorcycle racing is a whole different kettle of fish to doing like circuit to doing car racing. I mean, I think for me, like Moto3 Mugello would be like one of those like bucket list sort of things, just because it's so crazy.
It's frenetic, isn't it? I love bike racing, and it remains one of my first loves within motorsport. And so my opportunity at Dorna came about when I was, how old would I have been? 19. I was doing the Cool Fab Racing Championships, mini bike championship, basically, for those who don't know. So it's what young kids start out on when they're 4 or 5 years old. They start on little pocket bikes, they go around kart tracks, they race, they try not to fall off, they do fall off, they get back on, and so on and so forth. And then they progress up to bigger bikes and they fall off those bikes. And eventually they end up on super bikes and MotoGP bikes and they fall off those as well. There's a theme going on here, in case you haven't realised. You fall off a lot and you hurt yourself. Anyway, I did that in 2016, and I was working with a gentleman called Lester Forbes, and we'd formed our own motorsport media business during that year. We made online radio shows, we did the Cool Fab Racing Championships, and so on. And one of the shows that we made was called the Superbike Show, which is still going to this day, just in very different guise to how it was. So that show was hosted by me initially, and we basically went and interviewed loads of people within motorcycle racing and then put them out on a show and so on. So I interviewed a chap called Steve Day, who works in British Superbikes now, worked at MotoGP at the time. And after the interview, which we pre-recorded, I said to him, look, I'm really looking to kind of make the next step. I've done Fab Racing this year. I'd love to do some TV stuff, though, because I'd never done anything in TV up until that point. It was just radio and circuit stuff. And he said, well, try and get involved with Eurosport. Send Simon Reed an email, because he was the head of commentary at the time, and he might be interested in helping you out. So I was like, yeah, okay, all right, no worries. Thinking nothing's ever going to come of that. And then about 3 weeks later, he messaged me saying, oh, there's actually an opportunity at Dorna coming up for 2017. Would you be interested? I was like, yeah, of course I would be, absolutely. Yeah. Because one of the hardest things in this industry is trying to get consistent work as a commentator. So it was like a full-time opportunity. And I thought, yeah, great, amazing, I'll take that. So I went for an interview in London, and the job was in Barcelona. And yeah, a couple of weeks later, found out I got the job. I remember being in a queue on the Dartford Bridge at the time, and my phone it just wasn't moving in traffic, and my phone bonged, and I looked down, and it was an email, and it was from Dorna offering me the job for 2017. And I just went, yes, get in. Punching the headline in, there's a dent in the roof afterwards, and I was just absolutely elated. So it was one of the best moments of my life. And I did 2 years there, living out in Spain, 1 year working in MotoGP, doing the highlights and lots of commentary on the CV Repsol, now the Junior GP Championships, and doing things like the British Talent Cup, the Asia Talent Cup, anything that they could get me to do commentary wise, I was well in for, because I just wanted to get experience and wanted to become a good TV commentator. So did that in 2017. Then 2018, I got pulled into the office at the start of the year, and they said, how would you feel about moving over from MotoGP to World Superbikes? Which I kind of had my eye on anyway, because they just made a commentary change in MotoGP, and I thought, well, there's probably not going to be an opportunity there anytime soon. World Supers might be my calling. But yeah, so I moved over to do World Supers, and then did a couple of rounds in the office, and then they made a change in the commentary team then, because the person they put in for that year wasn't getting on so well, and they asked me to come in and do it. So I did it, and yeah, then left at the end of the year to go and work for Gran Turismo full time. So yeah, 2 wild years in sort of my early 20s, which I probably didn't appreciate as much at the time as I really should have done, but it was an amazing experience, and yeah, one that I'm very grateful for, because it really shaped me as a commentator. Once I'd finished doing 2 years there, I had so much more experience and was so much better at what I did.
Yeah.
And you said there that you would do literally anything that they threw at you during that first year. So Asia Talent Cup, Junior GP, everything that was there, you would give it a go at. What is that like prepping for that? Because especially in those feeder series, like you've got 30 different bikes, and with like Red Bull rookies and stuff like that, they all ride the exact same livery bike. The number is the only thing that's different. How do you like prep for those sort of things, and when you're sort of like thrown in the deep end?
It's bloody hard work, and this might come as a surprise, but prep is the worst part of the job. It's a necessity. It's not something that anybody enjoys. Well, some people may enjoy it. Some people do love a stat and so on. And don't get me wrong, it's one of those things that I sit there and I think, oh, I just really don't want to do this, but I know I've got to do it. And once I get into it, I'm absolutely fine. But I still don't like the thought of doing it. However, you've just got to get on with it. And it is hard work. When you've got CV Repsol and stuff like that, and Asia Talent Cup, British Talent Cup, and so on, you've got riders that are generally, quite young, maybe don't have much of a presence online. So finding out information about them can actually be quite hard. And obviously, you're quite limited to the resources that you have at your disposal. So if the information about a certain rider isn't there, the only way to find it is to go up and talk to them. But you may be going into a weekend not necessarily shooting blind, but you might not have all of the information that you would like. And it's an interesting one, because prep is unique to each commentator. Everybody will have a different set of notes organized in a different way. and it will all look completely different. And, Pico, you might have a set of notes, and I might look at them and think, good God, what on earth is that all about? And I've got no idea, and vice versa, right? It's just how it is with the job. But yeah, you just have to kind of get on with it and just do the best job that you can. So it's a real tricky challenge and a unique quirk of the job, and especially when you've got things like the ACC and the BTC, where you have got identical bikes and you're like, oh bloody hell, who's that and what's that? So you just have to spot little intricacies, like they've got a green flash on their helmet, or they've got a different color to their number, or they've got different color boots and stuff like that. And you kind of, I mean, I'm very grateful that we live in the 21st century where you've got HD cameras, because if I was doing this in the bloody 1980s, where you're looking at something that looks like it was filmed on a potato, then you're going to be sat there struggling like nobody's business. But I'm quite fortunate in that respect. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but it's very rewarding when you're able to get it right.
Yeah, how does that look in terms of Formula E? Like, where do you start? So like when you were doing that Rome race, that first race weekend, getting the information, where did you start? Like, what was the process?
Well, first thing was obviously getting up to speed with Formula E. I was a big watcher in the first couple of years in 14 and 15, season 1 and season 2. But as is the way, when you are busy with other motorsports, you can't keep abroad of everything. So I had to choose what I was focusing on, and kind of Formula E went to the wayside for a little while, really, to be completely honest with you. So it was getting myself back up to speed and acquainted with it, and I watched a few bits from Gen 2. I hadn't really, to be honest, watched a lot from Gen 3, so it was a case of watching through races, working out what the sort of intricacies and the little idiosyncrasies within this generation of racing is and was. And looking at that, and everything I do within commentary, I make a spreadsheet. So it will be like a sort of 2x2, and I'll have it in numerical order. I'll have the driver, I'll have what team they race for, where they're from, what power unit they have, what their results are over the course of the season, and then some facts about them as well. Just, a few quick fire things. Now, I'm very lucky within Formula E because it's quite well prepped in terms of it's very well covered. There's a lot of information out there. It's very readily available. And we get sent stat packs before the event. So this prep that I do, though I do my own stuff, it's not necessarily essential. However, I always do it because it stays in my brain a lot easier. I find that if I write things down, or if I do that, it's there and it's in my head. And I'll just, when I need it, it's ready for an off the cuff kind of whatever. So there's that, and I just had to get myself up to speed with it, really, watch all the races, kind of work out what was going on. But it was daunting, it was really scary going into doing Formula E. And I have to be honest, I did feel underprepared. You always do as a commentator. You can sit there and do as much prep as you like, but you always feel like you've never done enough. And going into Rome, I felt like I hadn't done enough. So I was just like, right, I just need to be a sponge. Went into the weekend, was getting information from anybody I could, following other members of the team around when they were doing interviews, to meet the drivers, to meet the team, to meet all these different people. And I was very lucky that everybody in Formula E is absolutely wonderful, and they are so brilliant at helping people out. It's such a friendly paddock.
Good.
So yeah, that was kind of it, really.
Yeah, so I suppose that first race weekend in Rome, it was an audition. So how much nerves was there going into the start or qualifying or that first practice session when like this is it, like, and to know that, I suppose in the back of your mind you obviously realized that there was an opportunity, maybe potentially, to get the gig full time that you have. So how was the emotions building up to that first practice session, or the race itself?
It's very nerve-wracking. It always is going to be, going into something like that, because that there's a lot of weight behind it, and I went into it thinking, go in, enjoy the experience, and whatever happens on the other side happens on the other side. If you get the gig, you get the gig, and you've done a great job. If you don't get the gig, it wasn't meant for you, and that's just kind of the strategy that I had to employ with it, really. But, going into FP0, the rookie free practice that we had, that was quite useful, actually, because it was a good sort of introduction as to how the broadcast works, and, quite relaxed and so on. But I was still shaking like a shitting dog, ready to go on air. I was just sort of trying to keep myself calm and just waiting for something to go wrong or whatever, and ready to kind of pick it up. But the more you do with commentary, the more experience that you get, but you're never going to feel fully prepared, and working for new people is always going to be daunting. So I just wanted to go in there, keep my head down, do as good a job as I possibly could. But I was definitely nervous, absolutely no doubt about it. And I just tried to take every session as it came, go out, talk to people afterwards, get the information that I needed to get, and those sorts of things, and just build up gradually. It's much like, if you're a rookie driver coming into a weekend, you don't go out and go 110% on the first lap because you're going to end up in the wall, right? You have to leave yourself some headroom. So I just wanted to build up slowly and, come into it free practice 0, free practice 1, free practice 2, getting a little bit more, experience and a bit more confidence each time, and just sort of not overstep the mark. So if I didn't know something, ask. I had Alan McNish. He's one of the best commentators I've ever had the pleasure of working with, and it was the first time I'd ever worked with him. But he knows it inside out from a driver's perspective and from a team's perspective as well, because he's done both sides. So, yeah, it was just a case of get there, keep your head down, and try not to bugger it up. Basically,
did you want a simple race?
Well, you didn't. It's what happened. The four races that you did at the end of the season, I'm not sure how many hours that you had to fill in the end.
It was an hour and a half, I think, wasn't it, in the first race? I mean, that was a baptism of fire, wasn't it? Straight into your hello, welcome to Formula E, bang, biggest crash of the season, and an hour and a half long red flag. I mean, I was quite lucky that we had Prez to go to, so we had Nicky, we had Radzi, we had Saunders down in pit lane, because when I did CV Repsol and the championships for Dorna, if there was a red flag, 9 times out of 10, there was nothing to go to. So you're just sat there commentating. There was no presentation team to kind of throw down to and fill in those gaps. So you kind of got used to filling relatively quickly. And also things like radio experiences as well. When I was doing shows, sometimes the playout system would crash. So you're sat there, talking absolute nonsense whilst your arms are over here and you're fiddling away trying to put a CD into the player because you're trying to restart the computer and it's all gone completely haywire. So I got used to filling relatively quickly. So yeah, going into Rome was always going to be an interesting one, but it became a bit of a running joke sort of amongst my friends that I had a bit of a red flag curse because I did 4 races last year and 3 of them got red flags.
No, it reminds me a little bit of the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix, and when there was a 4-hour red flag, and obviously I'm glad no commentator probably has to sit for a 4-hour red flag, but it felt like at the time it was just the David Coulthard and Martin Brundle podcast show, and I suppose even though like you're talking, but that is such an essential skill though at the same time, because you've got to talk even when there's nothing to talk about. So I suppose that experience at radio massively helped, just the filling areas.
It definitely did. And, I was quite lucky as well that we'd had some of the race. We had a story to tell up until that point. If you have an hour and a half red flag in free practice 1, God, there's no story over the weekend. So what on earth do you talk about? You sat there, kind of trying to fill things. It was worse, actually, when we did London race 2. When we had all the rain and everything got delayed for ages because obviously we'd had the story from yesterday, but there's only so much you can talk about that, and then it was me, Karun and Dario in the box, and we're sat there trying to fill for whatever it was, an hour or something like that. And, I was about 10 seconds away asking what Karun's thoughts on the pedestrianisation of Norwich City Centre were, to be completely honest with you, because I was running out of things to talk about. But you just get used to it. It's just one of those things. And obviously I am being, a little bit, I am using humour there. I don't necessarily think I was going to would have asked him that, but you never know. You never know quite how desperate things would have gotten if it had carried on. But yeah, it's just one of those things, and it's part of the job. That's where you earn your money as a commentator. You have to be ready to fill at the moment. You have to be ready to kind of deal with really tricky scenarios sometimes where there can be an unknown over a driver or an incident that's happened on track or whatever it may happen to be. And you have to be ready to go at that point. So it's just part of the job.
I wanted to just circle back slightly because obviously that time at Gran Turismo, obviously you did a lot of esports commentary as well. Obviously Formula One have got their F1 sort of like esports series. Is that something with your expertise and knowledge that maybe you would like to knock on FE's door and go, hey, maybe, FE did some, FE Accelerate and so forth. Is that something that you think, well, look, I've got the experience for this. This could be something that I would like to do as well on top of commentary in the off-season, because the off-season in Formula E is really long. I know you probably got other things that you wanted to be doing, but that could be something that I think your expertise might lend itself quite well to.
Well, thank you. I do very much appreciate that, first of all. Second of all, yes, it would be something that I would like to do. The challenge for me is that I do still work for Gran Turismo. It's still part of my commentary schedule for this year. I've been full-time with GT now for, this is year 6, I think it is. And it is one of the most amazing jobs I've ever had the privilege to have. But part of my deal with Gran Turismo is that I work exclusively for them on an esports basis. So I can't go work for F1 esports, or I can't go work for iRacing, or anybody third party or whatever that might happen to be, unless it's within the Gran Turismo sphere. So that kind of puts the brakes on that a little bit, which would is a shame in some respects, but I love my job within GT, and I'm very fortunate to have that opportunity. And they've been incredibly loyal to me, especially during things like the pandemic, when a lot of people were, out of work, or their commitments were reduced, or their salaries were reduced, and they were very, very good to me. And ultimately, they've given me a platform where I can build on and become a better commentator. So, I love my job at GT, and I'll be continuing to do that. So anything FE esports will probably have to sit by the wayside, but that's probably not a bad thing, because it gives other commentators opportunities to kind of rise up through the ranks as well. And I'm 27. I've hopefully got a good few years left in me yet. Yes. But there's always, I remember being 19 and wanting to knock on the door of people and wanting to get these opportunities that I'm fortunate enough to have now. So it's always a good opportunity to put somebody else in and get new voices and nurture new talent along the way.
Perfect. Pico.
I'm not sure what to ask at this point. We've been going for a while. Should we get some fans on?
We can. We've got some fan questions that people have texted in. So do people who have texted us? I say text us because they haven't texted us. They've messaged us saying these are the questions that we'd like to ask Tom, because there are some people, which is fine. It's fine to be a little bit camera shy and come on and do it live. But we've got some text, so should we fire some of those across, and then maybe by 9 o'clock we'll have a little break.
Work away.
Yeah. Go for it.
I can't access them, so you've got them apparently.
Oh, do I? Okay.
Yes, I can't access. I can't touch anything. If I touch something, it breaks.
I'm hoping
play some elevator hold music.
Yeah, okay.
Let's do this.
I have one. I have one. What is the best advice anyone has ever given you, and what advice would you give others to get wanting to get started in motorsport? That's from Danique.
Okay. Well, thanks, Danique, for your question. First of all, the best advice I was ever given was from Steve Day, who I worked with at Dorna and now actually work alongside at British Superbikes as well. And when I did this interview that I referenced earlier on back in 2016, and I was asking for him advice and trying to get into the world of TV and thinking it was going to be an impossibility, I said, what advice would you give me? And he just said, just be a sponge. Just soak everything up. Go in with the right attitude. And I'm very lucky to have had the opportunities I've had, but also I've seen other people that have had opportunities come and go because they've gone into a weekend with the wrong attitude, or they've upset the wrong people, or they've been too over exuberant, and so on and so forth. So I try and go in, I try and soak up everything I can. I don't go in pretending like I know everything about everything, because I don't. I'm still learning. I'm very much still learning about the intricacies of Formula E and still getting my head around things like attack mode and so on. So I don't want to come across like a Barry Big Potatoes that knows everything. I just want to be good at what I do. That's all I've ever wanted. Anything else that comes along with that is a byproduct, but all I've ever wanted is to be good at my job. And the way that I've learned to do that is go into it, be a sponge, learn everything that you can, and just try and soak it all up and just improve. If you go into it and you've improved from the start of the weekend, that's great. And just accept the fact that as well, that nothing is ever going to be perfect as a commentator. You're always going to make mistakes. And if you come off air thinking that you've done an amazing job and you're 100% perfect, you're in the wrong line of work. You've got to be prepared to make mistakes, and those mistakes are crucial because that's how you learn.
Yeah, right. I've got one from Lou here who said, is FE commentary more nerve-wracking than doing GT, or is there no real difference in terms of it's just like the job's to job?
There are definitely more intricacies within Formula E because it's a very unique form of motorsport. If you're commentating on rallycross, it's cars go out, lights go out, cars go off, they race to the checkered flag flat out. If you commentate on sim racing, generally the same sort of thing, maybe a bit of fuel and tyre saving. In Formula E, you've got things like attack mode. Obviously, we've got attack charge coming in this year. You've got energy saving as well. And just the way in which the whole sport operates is different to traditional motorsport. So it's a case of learning all of those different things, and that's all I'm trying to do over the course of this year. So I'm just trying to learn all of the different idiosyncrasies within FE. So it's definitely a bit more nerve-wracking. There's a lot more to get my head round, and it's a case of just taking it, step by step, and building up and getting a better picture of it. Like I said, I'm not going to go in there and pretend that I know everything. I'm still very much learning, and I just want to get good and be as good as I can be.
With another one I've got here is from Lou. Who is the best at FE predictor of the production crew? Have you got your own little league of you guys who are on the broadcast?
No, we don't really, to be honest with you, which we probably should do, but we generally sort of have a conversation before we're on air thinking, who's going to win this one? And I have to say, right before race 2, I called it to perfection. I said, I reckon Cassidy's got this one in the bag, And what happened? Cassidy goes and wins his first race for Jaguar. Nobody asked me for my lottery numbers after that, unfortunately, but they probably should have done. So you could see that Nick is incredibly good at being able to read a race, the intelligence that you need to be a Formula E driver. And that's no discredit to drivers in any other discipline whatsoever. But the way you're able to read the race and look at it and think, right, okay, this is what I need to do now. This is what I need to do now. It is literally a high-speed game of chess. So it's an incredible mind game, Formula E. But we definitely should get a league going. I see that in Formula One, they've got some as well. I was looking at Chris McCarthy's Insta story, and he's second in their sort of championships with F1 TV at the moment, just behind Laura Winter, I think. So maybe we need to do a similar one for FE.
To be fair, I did see Laura Winter's predictions for the season, and had Hamilton finishing ahead of Norris, and then Russell finishing ahead of Piastri, but had McLaren finishing higher in the constructors than Mercedes. So I'm not really sure how that one works, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. One that I've just seen on the chat, on the YouTube chat. What has been the hardest series to commentate? Because the FE format is quite tricky, but with the bikes, obviously, we mentioned that they've got identical liveries. Which one's the trickiest, and how fast is the adaptation process?
And that's from Alex.
Yes.
Oh, thanks, Alex, for your question. Formula E melted my brain, to be completely honest, in the first couple of weekends that I did. So that was definitely the biggest challenge. Things like bikes generally are pretty easy to kind of read. And that's the ability that you need as a commentator, is to be able to read a race, to be able to look at it and kind of be 2 or 3 steps ahead of what's happening, not just kind of calling the action. And I really struggled with that in Rome initially. I was like, oh God, these guys are going for attack mode. I don't really know what this means, and I'm still learning and so on. And I'm still learning now, very much so. But I've got a little, Saudi was actually the first weekend where I thought, okay, I had a decent handle on it this time. So that was definitely the most challenging. Rallycross can be tricky from a point of view that they have joker laps, so that's an extra long lap, kind of like what FE has with attack mode, really. And you have to do that once per race, but obviously it's a lot shorter, it's a lot more frenetic and energetic. So if you do make a mistake, it's over in 4 minutes, and there's another race coming up, and generally another 30 after that, so you can kind of get on board with it. Bike racing is, I don't want to sound what's the word? I don't want to sound disingenuous with this, but that's probably the easiest one to kind of commentate on, mainly because I've been around bike racing for such a long time now. It's been, crikey, what are we in? It's been 8 years since I've commentated on bike racing, so you can kind of get a good handle on it. And generally, bike races are pretty much flat out from start to finish. There might be a bit of tyre saving, a little bit of fuel saving, but within BSB and what I do there, it's generally a case of lights go out, 30 minutes later, bikes come across the line, and it's, fastest rider wins, essentially. So there's not much in terms of strategy to work out, and so on. So that's a bit of a tricky one. Also, things like endurance racing as well. I've done EWC, so the Bike Racing Endurance Championship. I've done a lot of esports endurance stuff over the years as well. And that can also be quite tricky to kind of be able to read what's going on. So, sorry, Alex, that was a very broad answer to your question. But Formula E was definitely the mind melter last year, and still continues to be, and probably will be in Sao Paulo, I'm imagining, as well. But yeah, it's one of those things. The more experience you get, the easier, in theory, it becomes. Watch me go and cock it up in Sao Paulo and eat my words.
Right, so the good news is the switchboard, as a good radio term, is lighting up, and we've got some people who are ready to come and ask you a question directly. So, Mr. Pico, could you please? I think we'll start with Josh T. So if you could drag Josh T up, and then we'll get Josh T.
I have.
Hello, Josh. You're
Yes.
live
Hello.
on the FE bar. Please do not swear. Tom is here.
I would
Fire
like
away
to
your
say,
question.
I would like to say I love how we're doing that. You're live. Please do not swear on the night Celebrity Big Brother is launching.
Yes.
Just quite like that. Sorry, Josh. Fire away.
Fire away.
So, the favourite track you have commentated at trackside, Tom?
Oh, trackside. Okay, so that discounts some of the circuits because I've commentated on things like Spa and Monaco so far, but I've actually been in studios in London. Trackside, though, that's a really good question. Let me think. Okay, so Portimao is a really cool circuit because it's a roller coaster. I actually hold the lap record in a Nissan Qashqai there from 2018 as well, where I basically drove the thing around on its wing mirrors, much to the chagrin of my bosses. So that's a really cool circuit. Let me think where else. Laguna Seca. It's got to be Laguna Seca, actually. I did World Supers back in 2018, and that is such a fucking cool place. Like, honestly, it is unbelievable. I went and did a lap in a rental car, and you think, okay, this isn't that steep. And you're climbing up to the corkscrew, and you think, bloody hell, this thing is never... And you're looking up here, and it's unbelievable. I got out and I took a water bottle that I had and I just rolled it down. And obviously, I can't remember how many stories it drops now, but it is just the most unbelievable place. And, you know, at the time we had 1,000cc, 200 horsepower superbikes racing around there. That must be like riding a bicycle around your living room. So, yeah, that for me was the zenith. That was probably one of the coolest tracks.
No, just to follow up on that, the Laguna Seca, I've been there once, and my Facebook profile picture was for a while was me at the corkscrew. Love that.
Josh, we were talking earlier about, and I forgot to mention it because we were talking about cooking right at the beginning of the show, right? So I'm going to go back to cooking. What is your... do you cook? Two, if you do cook, what's something that Tom should go and try making?
Ooh, well, you've actually chosen the right person because I am doing GCSE food tech right now.
Right, we're ready, right? We're ready for a Gordon Ramsay type recipe here, right? Get ready for your GCSEs. Go smash it right now.
Chicken noodle stir fry.
How?
And-
Come, tell me how do we do it? Go on. What's your ingredients? Come on, tell me. Tom's eager to find out more.
I don't have the recipe with me. Okay.
Jack's writing notes.
Wait, we're failing our GCSEs here if we don't have the recipe with us. Come on.
Less Gordon Ramsay, more Gordon Bennett at the moment, isn't it?
Okay, so put the noodles in, put the chicken in, let them fry together so all the juices mix, and put all the stuff in like peppers, onions, garlic. Then make it all make it all stir fry, and you can customize it as well. And what I do actually have is the dessert recipe somewhere.
Ooh, what's on dessert?
New York City style thick mini egg cookies for Easter.
That's something I can get behind.
Yeah.
If it's loading up.
Have you seen the cream egg cookies you can get at Domino's at the moment as well? They seem like a bit...
I want to get them.
That
I
looks
want to
like
get them.
that looks terrible. I'm sorry, that looks terrible.
No. I want to get them. I want to get them at some
I
point.
saw that. I was like,
No,
no,
I
that
reckon-
can't be good.
I reckon you can make a caramel egg one. I have to be honest, I do make some belting cookies. I'll tell you what, Pico, for London, I'll bake some cookies and I'll bring them up, and then you can sample them. And you know, they're so good you can't even taste the arsenic in them nowadays.
Brilliant. We've got cookies for London. I can't wait. I will say also, Josh, you're in very good company. I also did Food Tech GCSE.
Nice.
But try do better than me because I got a D. I failed at cooking.
He burnt.
Like,
You got the D.
He burnt.
You got
burnt
the D in
soup.
food tech.
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
You got the D in food tech.
Yeah.
All right. Speak for yourself.
All
I've now
right.
got a
But-
restraining order.
Perfect.
Go-
Right. We're good. Josh, I'm gonna have to move on there because we've got a couple more people that I want to get to. But thank you
Yep,
so much.
no worries.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Lovely to chat to you, Josh. Thanks for your question.
No worries.
Should we bring up Natalie? I'd like to talk to Natalie. Natalie is like an
Okay.
Envision Racing super fan. I've seen her before. Head round the paddock.
Right. Let's bring Natalie in.
Natalie, you're
you're
live
on.
on the FE bar. Please do not swear. Tom, what is your question for Tom? Oh, she's muted. You got to unmute yourself, Natalie. What? You can't speak if you're muted.
This is where she's actually
There we
eating
go.
cream egg cookies.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Natalie, hello. How are you?
I'm alright, Pico, or Jack, how are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Look, it's hard to distinguish between both of us, especially when one's not in the call and both got ginger hair. So I don't blame you. What's your question for Tom?
Right, evening, Tom. With Sao Paulo coming up, have you been to Brazil before? What are your predictions for the race?
Oh, okay, right. No, I've never been to Brazil before, so new country for me. Very excited about it. Hoping to try and get to the beach if I can, because Brazil. So predictions for the race. Well,
Before you do it, Tom, I just want to remind you that Natalie's an Envision fan.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Noted. Well, the Jaguar powertrains have been strong this year, so there's no reason why they
Very
shouldn't.
strong last year as well in Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
Quite, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be. Also, if we look at the style of race it was last year, it was a very peloton style race. I reckon that's probably going to be a similar sort of thing this year. Brazil's a very fast track, it's very Formula E actually, very flat out, lots of opportunities for a bit of chaos. So qualifying is going to be really important, but also I think we're going to have a bit of a Portland where you're going to get drivers that won't necessarily want to lead. And as I mentioned earlier on, the man that's really good at that is Nick Cassidy. So I think he could do quite well. But Freintz as well and Buemi, you can never discount them, can you? I mean, Freintz, he's had a bit of a rocky start to the year, but now he's getting there, isn't he? So I think that we could see the Jaguars up there. I'd like to see Porsche come back. I tell you who I really want to see is I want to see Da Costa getting some points on the board.
Yeah, he's had a bit of an awkward start to the season, hasn't he?
He's had a dog's dinner. He needs to get some points on the board and try and get out of the rut that he's in, which he's been really open about actually as well. So I think we're going to see a really interesting race, and I think it's going to be a case of who is the smartest in terms of saving their energy and timing it right. Sit there behind the other cars, wait for the right moments to lead, and so on. So I think that's the kind of race we're going to see. But Jaguar, Porsche powertrains, that seems to be the story of the season so far. So I'd expect that to probably continue.
And I am going to be a bit biased in what I'm about to say, but in previous years, Envision haven't started that well, but come the end of the season, they've been up there, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see Envision do well, but I'd say that as an Envision racing superfan. But also McLaren, because Sam and Jake have also had a good start to the season as well.
And did you know the Nissan power unit was, I believe, if I read correctly, it was the most efficient overall in Diriyah.
Yeah.
So I think that they've got a really good base there. Again, if it comes down to energy management and they can, get themselves sorted, you've got one of the most experienced drivers in Sam Bird on one side of the garage who knows Formula E inside out. Never discount him. And Jake, as you know, qualifying I think is going to be hugely important. If he can stick that car at the sharp end of the grid like he did so much last year, there's no reason why they couldn't feature quite heavily.
And also, with Sam being reunited with Stephen Lane, who he worked out with Envision for 2 years prior to him leaving for Jaguar, that's also worked really well driver-engineer-wise.
I think the synergy between a driver and an engineer is hugely important. I need to apologise to Stephen Lane, actually, because I called him Mark Lane on the broadcast, who, as I understand, works for Alpine. I don't quite know where I got that one from. But again, that's one of those mistakes that you make. It's one of those mistakes you make during commentary.
Yeah, Mum and I were like, Tom, no.
No, wrong lane.
Yeah,
wrong lane.
That's me saying 3 o'clock driving home. Just like, wrong lane. Next one.
So why are all the cars coming towards me? What's this?
No, don't say that. Jack will remember very well that we almost had that in Valencia.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Driving on the wrong side of the road in pre-season testing is not the way to go. Because not good. And then obviously I had the chance to meet
Stephen Lane in London last year. He was one of the nicest guys in the paddock. Honestly, he was so sweet, and he had time for me, which some people don't.
Awesome.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's really nice to hear.
That's great.
Natalie, I'm going to have to let you go, but it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Pleasure's also mine as always, lads. It's been fun.
Perfect.
Lovely to chat to you, Natalie. Thanks so much for your questions.
Cheers, Natalie. We'll see you later.
Right.
See you in London.
See you later.
Right.
What we're going to do?
2 seconds, Jack. I will just say that we have had a couple questions in the chat very quickly. Tom, what's your favourite dinosaur?
Can I say turkey? I'll do like a turkey dinosaur. No?
Yeah.
Hey.
I say that's allowed.
I hope Jamie Oliver's not watching. I'm going to get banned otherwise.
Yeah. Someone's also put a MotoGP style question as well. Thoughts on KTM having various teams rebranded as other brands of the same group? Should that be allowed with Tech 3 Gas coming in? I think Aspire are going to be Moto. Yeah. Should and Dorna not allowing more bikes in MotoGP? I think that's to do with not having a satellite Yamaha team last year, because I think Pons was rumoured for that, but.
Yeah, there's always rumours flying around the paddock. How reliable they actually are is another matter. I think, just going to the first question there, KTM rebranding bikes, it makes sense because there's always a market somewhere that might not necessarily be where we are, and you have to consider that Gas is a name with a lot of heritage. From a marketing perspective, it's probably easier for then teams to attract sponsors with a historic name and so on, and there's probably a thing of oversaturation as well. If you have 4 KTMs, is that going to be as effective as having a KTM and a Gas, especially if they're then going to look at Gas and relaunching that brand in another market, even if it is just a KTM with another name slapped on it. I mean, this goes back years ago when they used to rebrand KTMs as Husqvarnas in Moto 3. Husqvarna also make bloody leaf blowers and chainsaws and all sorts, but, they happen to make really good dirt bikes as well. And it caters for a market. There's always a reason logically behind all of these things, so I don't personally see a problem with it. It's never bothered me, and I think that there is always some sense into it, otherwise they just wouldn't do it. And then just going to the last question as well, what do I think about them, if they didn't allow a satellite Yamaha team in? Well, I mean, I always wanted to see a satellite Suzuki team in, and now we've got no Suzuki teams in, which is a bit of a shame. I don't really know how I feel about that, to be completely honest. There's a lot of Ducatis on the grid, but the reason there's a lot of Ducatis on the grid is because Ducati are bloody winning everything because they're so good. If you rewind 10 years ago, 2014, nobody wanted to ride that Ducati, and the fact that Gigi Dall'Igna and the whole team in Bologna have been able to just take the bull by the horns and develop a absolute class-leading motorcycle is incredible. So more power to them. And MotoGP is a very interesting product at the moment. The racing is still generally pretty good. I still don't think it's as good as it was in sort of 2016, 17 before the aero kit kind of came in from a personal perspective, but I get why people want to watch it. I just hope that they are able to rein in the regulations enough so that the racing stays close and competitive, and it doesn't become too much a case of riders not able to follow each other because of dirty air and outbreak each other because they've got aero wash and stuff like that. We already saw that a bit last year, and there's a danger of that going a bit too far, in my opinion.
Okay, so what we're going to do, because we were going to speak to Nick Golding at 9, but what we'll do is we'll rattle through the rest of the callers. So I think if we can get Saz in up in next, we'll rattle through the callers, then we'll go for a break, and then we'll get Nick Golding in from E-Racing 365 News. I think
right. I will say
Saz is deafened. I know she's deaf. I know she's deafened, but I can see her chatting in chat. So hopefully, this is your warning call, Saz, to get undeafened. Saz,
right.
This is your chance. She can't hear us technically, but hopefully she can hear us on the show. There we go. Saz, welcome to the FE bar. Hello.
Hello. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Excellent. What's your question for Tom? The deadly silence.
Oh, hang on. What do I need to press?
Oh. Have you got push to talk on? I think you've got my push to talk on. If not, Saz, we can come back to you and we can get someone else in.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. We can hear you, nice and clear.
Yay! Success. Okay, so my first question is. Hang on. Okay, got it. Right. My first question is, what event of any type would you most like to commentate on? Could be concert, another sporting event, a big moment.
That's a really good question. I think every commentator would love to do 3 events, and that's probably the Triple Crown. Obviously, Indy 500, Monaco Grand Prix, and so on, which would be really good. I think Le Mans would be really cool as well, because who wouldn't want to have on their CV that they've called Le Mans? Oh, in terms of another
24 hours. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. For the whole 24 hours, I'll just start and drink Red Bull continuously, one can an hour, and just see how much of the jitters I've got.
I did that once.
Did you?
Never again. Yeah.
Bad idea.
Bad idea. Really bad idea.
Yeah, not good. Not good. There are so many motorsport events I'd love to commentate on, but look, I don't look at it from a point of view that I want to commentate on this, and if I don't get there, then I've failed, because that's not just how I look at my life, really. I just want to have fun with what I do. And one of the things a music teacher taught me when I was at school, actually, he's actually now a good mate of mine. We go motorbike riding and everything. But he said, he was a musician, quite a successful musician. And I said, are you famous? And he said, well, no, I'm not famous, but I'm successful. I've been able to sell a few albums and keep a roof over my head, and I've got an amazing family. And that just really struck a chord with me. So, I have no desire to be famous or anything like that. I just want to be good at what I do. And that comes with enjoying the journey along the way. So whether that means I do commentate on Le Mans or the Indy 500 or the Monaco Grand Prix or whatever it might happen to be at some point, then that's amazing. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, So, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one to kind of say I don't really have any specific goals of things I want to do, but I just try and go with the flow. Life is unpredictable.
Sounds good. Well, I hope you get to commentate them, but like I said, it's a good attitude. And my next question is, when you're commentating on the races, how do you follow the races? Do you use live time in the screen, or just watch what's going on the track if you're there?
So within the commentary box of Formula E, we've got, I think, 5 screens or something along the lines of that, which is a bit chaotic. So we've got two timing screens, because obviously there's, we've got 2 commentators, each one needs a timing screen. We've got what they call the international feed, which is the same feed that you see at home, but the way that it's produced at Formula E is we produce everything on track. That gets sent to a what do you call it? Not a broadcast truck, but it gets sent to like a broadcast center on site, and then that gets sent back down to London, where they then add the graphics and the team radio and all of those sorts of things, and then it gets sent back to wherever our location is. So we've got 2 screens within the commentary box at the moment where we'll have an international feed, but the problem is, because it gets sent to London and then sent back to us, there's a delay of about 2 seconds, which is why when some people have said, oh, you keep crashing the team radio, that's why we keep crashing the team radio. It's not our fault. It's because it keeps because there's a delay and we don't hear it until later. They're trying to work on it. It's a bit of a logistical nightmare. But yeah, that's kind of that. So we've got that, and then we've got what they call the dirty track feed above that, which is not delayed. It's produced at the circuit. It's got graphics on it, but it doesn't have onboards. It doesn't have replays and so on. So that's kind of what we'll use to commentate on, and then that'll be above the international feed. So you're kind of flitting between the two like that, playing tennis with your eyes. And then we've got another screen over the other side where we'll have a track map, and it will have like yellow flag at sector 2 or yellow flag here or whatever, driver whatever has gone off and so on. So there's loads of different things going on. Plus then you've got your commentary panel where you've got your headset and all your volumes, which you've got 3 producers talking to you at any one time and so on. So yeah, it's a fast and frantic thing going on.
Wow, that sounds complicated.
It's definitely a challenge, but it's one of the things that you do with the job. And don't get me wrong, I get it all the time, because I'll be sat there at home and I'll be screaming at the TV when a commentator misses something. But there's so much going on when you're actually doing the bloody job that it's quite easy to miss something. And also, when you're sat there with your 65-inch telly in your living room at home, you've got so much more detail than we do with a 24-inch telly in the commentary box. We have to have small TVs because there's so much going on and so many things that need to be there. If you had a bloody 55-inch TV, well, that'd be great, but you wouldn't be able to fit anything else in there.
Okay, I'll stop complaining about the team radio.
But it's one of those things. It's good for people to know what kind of is going on at the moment, and it's a thing that we're trying to work through, and we're trying to find the best solution at the moment, and we're kind of learning that way forwards. And it's just one of those things.
Fantastic. And final question: what's the funniest thing that's happened to you whilst commentating?
Oh, that's a good question. Funniest thing that's happened to me: fallen off a few chairs in my time. That's generally a good one. I mean, I try and stand when I commentate. So for those who haven't seen me commentate, which you wouldn't obviously because it's I'm just a voice, but I rock when I commentate when I'm sitting, and I do that a lot, and I don't know quite why I do that. I've just always done it. And if I stand, I'll try and stand and crouch, but if I stand and I do that, right? So there's always the risk of tripping over your headphones wire, which is exactly what I've just done, by the way, or your chair goes back, or another good one as well is when your co-commentator's feeling in a particularly funny mood, and what they'll do is, you're on the back of the chair, you've got like the adjustment for the thing, so you can adjust the recliner. They'll do that, and then when I rock backwards, I go whoa like that, and then I fly backwards off my chair. So that's always a good one. Other than that, what else have I done? I don't know if I should say this. Actually, I did swear on air once last year. Actually, that was quite amusing. I didn't mean to, but fortunately, it was I was doing British Superbikes, and we were on a commercial break, fortunately, at the time, and I just had a slip of the tongue. I said, so there was a rider called Barry Burrell, and he was going into the corner, and he had a little wiggle on the bike. I said, slight wiggle there from Barry Burrell as he gets his bike all out of shit shape. And I was like, oh, God. And just fortunately, again, commercial break, and it was absolutely fine. Had that been something like Formula E or F1 or something, I'd have probably been vilified and whatever, but I was quite fortunate that it wasn't really, so I kind of managed to get away with it.
I think your slight predecessor in Formula E, Ben Edwards, I have a distinct memory of, because in practice when on BBC F1 back in the day, they always used to go through all the tweets and everything, and I'm fairly certain Ben accidentally said bullshit live on
it's
live
the
on
non-swearing
BBC.
show.
Yeah,
Sorry, I brought the tone down, Jack. I do apologise.
No, that's why I said it through gritted teeth, so it didn't come out too loudly. But yeah, no. So it happens to the best of people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We all make mistakes, eh?
We all make mistakes. Saz, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
Saz.
bye,
Lovely to meet
bye.
you. Take care.
Yeah, you do.
We got two more, and then we'll take a break, I believe. So
Right.
we'll take
shall
Adam,
we have
and then we'll
some...
do Josh last. So
Right,
do Adam
okay.
first, then Josh last.
Right. Okay. Right. Adam is in.
Adam, welcome to the FE Bar. What is your question for Tom?
Thank you. It's really good to be with you guys here in the United States. So Tom, last year Formula E went to Portland International Raceway in Portland, Oregon, and this year they're going back for a double hitter. What was your take on the action last year from Oregon?
Frenetic, I think, is probably fair to say. How many overtakes were there in that race? 402 or something.
Yeah, 400.
If memory serves me, it was incredible. I am looking forward to a little bit more of that, to be honest with you. And Portland's an amazing circuit. Whatever motorsport you throw at it, whether it's IndyCar or whether it's Indy Lights or whether it's endurance racing or whatever it might happen to be, it's an incredible track. And Formula E in America is big business, so it makes complete sense from a marketing perspective for FE to be there. I'd love us to go back to a street circuit at some point, but Portland is a really cool track, so I'm looking forward to hopefully a bit more of the same chaotic, unpredictable FE racing that we saw last year.
Did you like the Portland race? Because I hated it. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, come on! It was incredible. It was incredible for me because I was doing the race with Joshua Birch on his Watch Along YouTube channel, and he and I couldn't. It was incredible. they were going 5 wide on the front stretch. You think it was when NASCAR goes to Talladega Super Speedway in Alabama, how they go 3 and 4 wide there. So my next question to you, Tom, is since I mentioned NASCAR, do you follow any other motorsports series across the world?
Yeah, several. I mean, I've always been a big Formula One fan. I have to say, Bahrain was a little bit of a snooze fest, if we're being completely honest. But I follow a lot of that. I follow British Superbikes, obviously, because I commentate on it. I follow MotoGP when I can as well. Obviously, you can't be across everything. I'm really into IndyCar at the moment. That's really, really cool because the unpredictable nature of racing is just amazing. And also, we're lucky in the UK now that we can get it on Sky Sports. With Tom Gamer filling in the ad breaks and so on. So that's really cool. I'd really like to get a bit more into NASCAR. Actually, I remember going over to America to Florida in 2011 when my dad got married, and saw an advert and a NASCAR race on the TV over there, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. And I've not been able to make it over. In the same way that I want to go to the Indy 500, but I'm always generally busy around that time of year, and this year is no exception to that, unfortunately. But yeah, I really, really would love to go and see a proper NASCAR race, and I'd love to see what that's all about, basically, and watch it on an oval.
It's called. I've been several times, Tom, and it is incredible. I highly recommend going to. These are the tracks I recommend you go to. If you ever want to go to a NASCAR race, you have to go to Bristol Motor Speedway in Eastern Tennessee. It's a half-mile short track. It is chaotic. It is one of the top tracks that fans absolutely love. You need to go to Talladega Super Speedway in Talladega, Alabama. They go 3 wide and 4 wide there all the way around, and you never sit down. I have gone to both tracks, and also you need to go to Charlotte Motor Speedway in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is incredible, and that's where a lot of NASCAR teams are.
Amazing. Yeah, I've got to go and do that at some point.
Adam,
I'd love to go and do. I'd love to go and watch IndyCar in the person. I know when I was doing my big year, doing Formula E season 8, when Vancouver was supposed to be with New York, I had my fingers crossed that there was going to be a race like in that weekend between, but no, Mid Ohio clashed with Vancouver, with what was supposed to be Vancouver. We went to Marrakesh in the end, which was perfectly fine. First weekend in July, wasn't hot at all. No. Oh no. Putting a ginger in the desert in July, not the best idea.
Was it a bit Rome last year?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, no, Rome on the Sunday. That's that's the only time I've ever had the opportunity to go on the grid, but I wasn't going to turn it down because. Well,
I happen to have it on good authority that people's shoes were sticking to the tarmac. It was so hot in Rome.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
That doesn't sound pretty. Adam, it's been an absolute privilege having you on. Thank you so much for coming on. It means the world.
Yes, sir. I always enjoy being with you guys, and enjoy the rest of the Formula E season, Tom. It's really been an honor, sir.
Great to meet you, Adam. Thanks so much. Take care. I hope to see you in Portland.
I'll be broadcasting the race with our good friend Joshua Birch on that weekend.
Perfect. Right.
So,
we'll see you soon.
Thanks
Adam.
again, guys, and cheers.
Right, cheers, Adam.
So the next person that I want you to meet, Tom, is Joshua Birch. Now, Joshua Birch he's special. He's also a commentator too, who runs his own YouTube channel. And we were talking about. There's a
reason why we saved him for last, because he does Formula E watch-alongs and commentates on them as well. So this is commentator.
So he's a good friend. But before he asks this question, I just want to let you know that we were talking about the 24-hour races, and Josh recently did the 24 hours of Daytona straight through, and did the what was the Formula E race? It must have been, what was the second race? It's Diriyah 2. So he did the Diriyah race 2, and then he did the 24 hours of Daytona straight through. Josh, welcome to the FE Bar. What is your question for Tom?
First of all, you flatter me way too much, gentlemen out there this evening as well. That's too kind, and yeah, I'm not doing that again. But I think we've got Le Mans coming up later on in the year, so that's going to be fun. Well, pleasure to talk to you finally. I know we've texted a few times when I've asked you silly questions over on commentary box stats and that lot, and you've been asked quite a lot this evening about it. So the only thing I really want to know is when the lights go out as well. Commentators usually have things they say like Crofty's got lights out, away we go. Ben Edwards had the same. Murray, of course, had the famous go, go, go. I've got a couple. I tend to stick with action. And you said as well, Bahrain wasn't exactly that exciting. I tend to agree with you. But all the people I was commentating with said, no, it was good. I was like, really? Where was the action? So have you got anything... Oh, Jack. I should have really said it's lights out, good night when Bahrain started. But have you thought of anything yet to sort of, as a preload to the start, like when the lights go out, you've got a saying?
I haven't actually. Do you know, this was a big point of contention over the winter because I asked people to help me with it on Twitter, and there were a few good suggestions. There were none that sort of tickled my fancy, so to speak. But I haven't really found that line yet. And do you know, so one of my favorite commentators ever was James Allen, and I used to love his commentary. I thought he always had a bit of a poison chalice coming in after Murray because nobody's ever going to be Murray Walker, right? And don't get me wrong, every commentator has the downsides, and the thing is with commentary, it's very subjective. So I loved him because he was my childhood. My dad didn't like him because he came after Murray Walker, and he wasn't Murray Walker, right? However, I noticed that he never had a particular line when the lights went out, and there seems to be more of a, demand for a catchphrase nowadays. So, you know, like you say, Crofty seems to have one. You've got a couple. Ben Edwards had lights out and stuff like that. And, you know, everyone seems to have one. I've never had one. You know, when I do BSB, I generally go, red lights on, lights out, like that. Kind of a bit Ben Edwards, actually, to be honest with you. More by luck than judgment, I hasten to add. So I've done that. I've done a couple of different sort of lines, and I've kind of been trying to find what sticks. I'm kind of just throwing a few things at the wall, aimlessly looking and thinking, okay, that works, because somebody said to me, why don't you just use "and we go green," because that was Jack's line for years. But the thing is, I don't want people to think I'm sat there imitating Jack. You know, yeah. I loved Jack as a commentator, and you know, I thought he was incredible, brought an amazing voice to Formula E for, you know, getting on for 10 years. But I don't want people to think that I'm just there trying to be Jack Mark II. You know, I want to be Tom Mark I. So I don't really know what my lights out line is, and I'm still trying to figure that out at the moment. So yeah, I'm happy to hear any suggestions. If you've got a few suggestions, throw them away. Why not?
Well, I don't know. Lights out, race on has come to me if it's a bit... Say there's a race where you know there's not going to be a lot of action and you don't want to hype it up too much. And it's like there's a lot of tension in the air. I go, lights out, race on. And sort of just really drag the on bit. I think Josh G just texted me actually saying, do the Ben Edwards impression. That's something that comes in. I'll do it. But... because there's always difference, isn't there? Because he, as you said, he does lights out, away we go, and he sort of brings it up, doesn't he? I can't do that. I think I'll explain to you. I've got a couple. So I tend to go with, if we're in a country beginning with a B, I tend to go blast off in Brazil, like that.
Yeah. I'm trying the alliteration. Yeah, I'm trying the alliteration thing. I said in Deary, I said, let's go dueling in the desert you know, or something like that. And, you know, the 5 red lights are on and the Deary Ypres is underway, that sort of thing. And then I think for the second race, because it was a double header, I think I just went, because there was, I don't know if you noticed actually at the start of that one, I think there was a bit of a technical hiccup because we had so many different camera changes in the lead up to that one, and then finally we went to the lights on the grid one, and we were actually 3 lights in already. So I didn't have time to do any bloody build up. Same for Mexico actually. I didn't have time. I'd prepared a line in my head, and then by the time it kicked on, it was too bloody late. So, and the reason,
can you tell us the line that you were going to have at the start of the season?
I can't actually remember now. Time's passed. Time for a masterclass in Mexico. Time for it would have been some form of alliteration. I've got no imagination, Jack. To be honest with you. So Yeah, I honestly, I don't know what my line should be. I'm still trying to figure that one out. But alliteration seems to work. Something in Sao Paulo, there'll be something there. The thing is, when it's a single header, it's kind of easy because you've got one shot at it. When you've got a double header, you're like, oh shit, I've got to do that again in 24 hours and find a completely different line to be able to try and work it. So
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's so
what
hard.
surprise in Sao Paulo? That's what's come to my head. What surprise in Sao Paulo is in store?
My brain went to surge.
Okay.
Oh,
Surge is probably not a good thing to use in electric racing, though.
That's not what a surge.
Yeah, no, that's
Just a thought.
yeah.
No.
I'm only a few weekends in, Jack. I don't fancy getting the boot, mate.
Personally, I think you can have blast off in Brazil. I won't use it, so you can have it if you like.
If he does use it.
I even asked ChatGPT for a few suggestions actually, and they were interesting.
They were,
our colleague Ed Hunter has suggested charge into action.
Charge into action. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's what I say usually as well in Formula One when the lights go out, because as you say, it was alliteration, an English lesson back in 2013 we were doing about it. I thought first race of F1 Australia, action in Australia, and it just stuck, and I've said it ever since with the lights going at F1. But it's sort of like, this is one thing you might find as well when you get one, you get scared of not saying it. So it's become like drivers have superstitions of getting on one side of the car. If I don't say my line at the start of an F1 race, I feel like it's going to be a bad race. But I don't get it with any other series. Here's one, actually, I've figured out. Yeah, no, waffle. Here's what I figured out for MotoGP when the lights go out. And it's pull the throttle back and we go racing in whatever country we go. So you're pulling the throttle back instead of dropping the clutch. Just something I had
makes
thought.
sense.
Makes sense.
Well, it's annoying because Harry Benjamin has a brilliant line where it's eyes on the lights and foot to the floor, which is a brilliant line. That works. And the thing is, and we go green. That's brilliant because there's double meaning there. Green flag racing and green, obviously, because it's electric.
Yeah.
So and I don't think I'm ever going to be able to top that. To be completely honest with you, I mean, the fact is that the legacy of "And We Go Green" is going to live on because they made a bloody documentary about it.
I've got the T-shirt. I got the T-shirt that came with it. So
there you go.
Oh no.
So that's stuck in the cupboard somewhere. Josh, I'm gonna have to stop you there. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, pleasure as always. Pleasure to finally talk with you, Tom, as well. And boys, nice to see you again. And hopefully we'll chat after Sao Paulo. And good luck for your commentary as well, Tom. I'll be listening in the background of my headset.
Nice to meet you, Josh. Thanks, mate. Much appreciated.
Perfect.
Take care, everyone.
Right.
Josh.
What we're gonna do?
Right.
What we're gonna do? Before we get Nick in, we're just gonna have a 2-minute movement break because we've been sitting down for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Glad you said that.
Yeah, little stretch of legs, and then we'll reconvene and we'll speak to Nick Golding from it's E Racing 365 News, I believe it is now. He's moved organisation since.
It's
should have written it down. Is it
Racing News 365.
He'll tell me. I've got the picture.
I think it's RN365, so it's Racing News 365.
But we'll be speaking to him very, very soon.
Nick's going to have a field day now.
He will. Right, we'll speak to you in a moment. welcome back, everybody. We are back, and we are joined this time with Nick Golding, who he's going to explain who he works for now, because I think it's only right. I mucked it up first time round. So, Nick, fire away.
Is this because you've forgotten the name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so
Racing
fair
News
enough. I'll give you.
365. My brain's gone. It's a hot day in the evening, and it's gone out of
Fair
my
enough.
head.
You've done a good job tonight, so I'll give you credit. So, yeah, I am now with Racing News 365. I am a F1 journalist for them, but more importantly, their Formula E editor. So any Formula E content you see from them is written by older muggins over here. So, yeah, no, I'm loving it. It's been good. And obviously I was in Diriyah recently. I'm off to Sao Paulo next week. And, yeah, hoping it's not going to rain, because that's what the forecast currently says.
Okay, that's not good news. So the beach idea, Tom, it seems to be out the window already, if Nick's right.
Well, I mean, to be fair, though, I'll trade the beach for a wet Formula E race. That's going to be carnage. I'm trying to think, have we had a properly wet Gen 3 race yet?
Well, London, but does that count?
Well,
You
yeah.
can't
but
count London.
Yeah. It's half inside, isn't it?
Exactly. So it wasn't fully, fully wet.
Exactly. Mind you, to be fair, Boemi's car was like a swimming pool, apparently, according to the team radio. So I'd probably crashed that as well, to be fair.
Well,
So
in all fairness, the outside, it properly rained. I remember looking out the balcony, actually with you, Pico, as well.
Yeah.
And we were like, and you were saying, you've never seen this in Formula E before.
No.
I didn't quite realise how bad it was, to be honest, until it was about 10 minutes before we went on air, and I went for a quick comfort break, and I was just walking, and obviously you're in the XL, so you walk through to the bog, and it's, you can see the windows outside. I was like, oh, crikey. God, that is some proper weather going on there.
Yeah, because the entire production was inside, because that makes sense. Yeah, you didn't really see. No one really knew until we had a quick look outside. Oh, God, this isn't starting.
Yeah, I will say, in all fairness, the Sao Paulo. Is it Sao Paulo? I can't, honestly, my pronunciations are shocking. Could never be a commentator. The forecast is changing literally every hour. So last night it was saying thunderstorms. This morning it was saying sunshine, and then this afternoon it's saying heavy rain. But
to be honest, we're 2 weeks away. The weather's going to change, right? We won't know.
Well, there's actually a lot of floods in Rio at the moment, which is only a couple of hours away, I'm pretty sure. So you know what? I'm going to Brazil. It'll be warmer than here, so I'll take it.
Yeah, take it. So Nick, what's the latest news? What's going on in the world of Formula E? Keep us updated. What's going on? What have you been hearing?
I'll be honest, I'm knackered, because we've had 6 weeks off now, but actually it's been really interesting because you've had, almost half the field off in WEC, the World Endurance Championship, and obviously there was the Qatar Prologue last weekend, which was better than the Bahrain Grand Prix. But you've also had the likes of the Porsche drivers, so Wehrlein and Acosta, who obviously don't drive in WEC, so they've still been busy with Porsche, because obviously Acosta has had an absolute mare to the start of the season. He's had a shocker. And obviously Jaguar as well, neither of their drivers have been with the World Endurance Championship. So actually, those two teams have been really hard at work. I spoke to Mitch Evans and Nick Cassidy a couple of weeks ago, actually. And it is literally that. They are working really hard because they know, with the Nissan powertrain, as you talked about earlier, having improved so much to the point that, as Tom mentioned, McLaren have the best efficiency in Diriyah. Last season, they had the worst. Well, not quite the worst. Neo, ERT were below them, but that's a massive jump. So all of a sudden now, Nick reckons that actually 16 cars can fight for victory, because even the Stellantis powered teams have improved massively. So the racing in Sao Paulo as well, where energy management is going to be required, the racing is going to be a lot closer, and all of a sudden McLaren, and Nissan are in a real chance of victory. So they've been working hard. They've both kind of shrugged their shoulders and have no idea what people are going on about in regards to them having a rivalry. There's already been comparisons to Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. That's not the case. They're actually really, really good friends, funnily enough. So that's not going to happen. Obviously, James Barkley is prepared to, manage any situation that unfolds with openness, and that's something Jaguar do really, really well. The way they work, it's actually quite Porsche-esque in that it's accurate. It's just done very, very well. It's too late for big words. Yeah, so they've been really busy. Obviously, with Porsche Da Costa and Porsche have been trying to figure out what's been going wrong, because something has been, quite simply. Da Costa was second. He set the second quickest time of pre-season testing, yet 3 races in, he's not got a point. And if Jaguar have improved, which it looks like they have, then Porsche need both drivers to be performing well to fight for the team's championship.
100%, because that was what the whole situation with Andretti last year, with Andre Lotterer and Jake Dennis, and it obviously Andre Lotterer eventually lost his seat. Oh, by the way, Tom, I thought did a stunning job in Derry on the presentation team. I thought Andre was brilliant.
Really good. Yeah, I know. Annoyingly good, actually, to be completely honest with you. I want to watch my back. We've had 2 really good people in Prez, actually, with James Rossiter as well. He was really good in Mexico. Really enjoyed his insight, actually. And Andre as well, because he's got so much fresh Gen 3 experience. That was a really good way of starting the weekend, because we just jumped straight into it, and I could ask him about, what's he doing here, what's going on here, what's, all of those sorts of things. And also, such a lovely, softly spoken voice compared to my harsh British tones. His lovely, warm Belgian accent just kind of radiating their way through the airwaves. And then you've got some bloke who, probably sounds like a bit of a Cockney Herbert by comparison.
Don't be mean to yourself. That's not fair.
It's interesting you say, though, about Da Costa, because, like you say, he's had a shocker of the start of the year, and he's obviously got a lot of work to do. And he's been, of his own admission. I mean, I spoke to Sam Smith, actually, earlier in the year, and he said that he reckons Da Costa's struggle last year was down to the Hankook tyres, which he also struggled on in DTM. But he just seems like he's all at sea. And then in Diriyah, he said he's just going nowhere. He's got no base setup. He's got no reference. He can't find anything that works. What do you think it is that's changed between winter and 2024? Because compared to where he was last year, compared to where he is this year, he's in a different postcode.
I think this season, Porsche have, through their own doing, put a lot more pressure on him. They told him, obviously, they've taken him away from his WEC drive. He was obviously meant to be doing the World Endurance Championship this season, but they've taken him off that because they want him to fully focus on FE. So if he's now only focusing on FE and still not performing, then it does raise the question, yes, he's a former Formula E World Champion and he's an incredible driver and also an incredible person, actually. He's one of the nicest people in the paddock. But if he's not performing, Porsche want to win. I said this on the show a few weeks ago, that they want to win. They're in Formula E to win. Porsche not winning is a disaster for them. That they finally got a package where they can win both championships. Of course, Jake did it last season in the Drivers' Championship. That's for a customer team. Porsche want to win the championship with one of their own drivers, with their own team. It's possibly it's the Hancock tyres with Da Costa because, Pascal's already got a win this season. Norman Nato's actually settled into Andretti quite well. Jake's got a win. It's then just Da Costa. Obviously, we've got Sao Paulo, obviously, in saying this is probably now going to go and win. He needs just a good race to get some confidence, because last season he had Cape Town where he was phenomenal. Pulled off one of the greatest overtakes I've ever seen. At a track which looked amazing and terrifying. But obviously there is no Cape Town this year. He just needs, I think, one good result to kind of leapfrog him and just build that confidence, because the car is good. There's the proof's in the pudding. If the car wasn't good, Jake wouldn't have done the title last season. And it's only going to get harder with more teams competing for victory. So he's running out of time a little bit, in my opinion. He's got to find some results.
Yeah, I do. I agree. I said it in a previous episode as well, like what's gone wrong with Da Costa. And I the Cape Town last season, that was, for me, that was his standout moment, and there wasn't really any standout moments anywhere else last year, maybe bar London, you could say, but then he got disqualified in the second race, which was a bit of a shame for him. But that doesn't do the confidence much good when your car's doing well and then you get disqualified after. So the whole good performance, the whole, we did something well, it's just taken away from you effectively, and you're back at square one. But I don't think his seat's under threat. Like, I don't think he's under threat at Porsche, but you never know. You're right. You can't have Andretti doing good things and then Porsche struggling, and then it doesn't look good on the brand, you could argue. But
I think you hit the nail on the head there. you hit the nail on the head. With Formula E, you never know. It's unpredictable both on and off the circuit. Silly season in Formula E, is unlike anything else. The F1 silly season we're about to have, or should I say, has already started. Thank you very much, Lewis Hamilton. Is what FE is like every season. So there's always going to be movements, and obviously you've also got to look at, Porsche have got some good drivers on the books. You've got Zay Maloney, who is the Andretti reserve driver. Has had an excellent start to F2. If he doesn't find a seat in F1 in the next couple of years, will he suddenly be looking for a future in FE? With FE, there are so many storylines because we're getting to a point now where the likes of Sandberg, Degrassi, Verne, we're almost the old guard of Formula E. We're getting to a point now where soon they're going to start moving on, and then we're likely going to get some really young, exciting drivers coming through. Which we're starting to see a little bit. Deruvel is young. Gunter's only 26 and he's been around forever. There is some exciting young talent in the paddock, and obviously we'll see a lot of that Mazzano as well with the rookie test. So that there are some really exciting names in F2 who have seen FE as a real career opportunity other than F1, because in F1 nowadays, to get a seat is virtually impossible unless your name's Kimi Antonelli.
The thing is, with Formula E being unpredictable, 2 points there. Yes, you're absolutely right with Dennis. Massive contrast in fortunes from winning on Friday, to going and basically, having an absolute honker for the second race on Saturday. But if you're Porsche, surely you're going to be looking at him if Da Costa doesn't perform and trying to entice Dennis over to that factory team, with a bit of a sports car sort of. What am I looking for there?
Opportunities.
Opportunity. Yeah. Temptation going on. Sort of saying, come drive for us in the factory team.
See, I had a theory because I've seen it's all now gone to pot because of Andretti being rejected from F1, at least for now. I don't think Jake would want to drive for the factory team, purely because I don't know whether that would put his Red Bull F1 sim duties at risk. Because obviously and this is one of the main reasons why obviously Robin Fryans has gone back to Envision, because some teams don't like you working for two manufacturers. Obviously, Envision aren't a manufacturer team; they're a customer team. If Jake were to say, for example, replace Da Costa at Porsche, would Porsche be happy for him to be working for Red Bull as well? It's really interesting. Obviously, it's of course only time will tell.
Yeah.
But there's if you're Porsche, of course you'd want to look at Jake. Why wouldn't you want the reigning world champion, one of the fastest and best drivers on the grid in your team? So yeah, it's a really interesting point.
Yeah,
I just think if you're Porsche and Da Costa doesn't, if he has a honker of a 2024 and it doesn't get any better for him, and he moves on to pastures new, and then you stick Dennis in the car and say, hey, by the way, come and win Le Mans for us with Jota.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's an opportunity. Oh, by the way, here's a check. Write down how much you want on it. Done. Like you'd be silly to pass that up, wouldn't you? Surely, despite the Red Bull opportunity, because he's not going to get an F1 seat, is he, anytime soon?
No.
Well, I don't know. To be fair, by the sounds of things, Verstappen's off to Mercedes, so who knows?
I think this is where if Andretti had gotten the 11th garage for 2026, perhaps there might have been some temptation. I don't think he would have necessarily have gotten the seat, but I think, of course, there'd have been some temptation to stay around at Andretti. If Porsche were to say to him, look, do you fancy Le Mans for us if you come to race for us in FE? For a driver that's not going to get into F1, surely that's got to be, the dream, to be able to try and win Le Mans. What else is there other than perhaps maybe giving Indy a go? And the thing is, Jake is a phenomenal racing driver. He is so good and he's so quick. Ever since he came into FE, he had immediate impact. He was immediately quick. So I'd like to see him in a factory team. Will it ever happen? I don't know. I guess that's something to find out as the season develops. I'm sure, asking a few teams, they might give away a few secrets. If you ask nicely, Tom.
Yeah. If you ask nicely,
if you can find me afterwards, though, and let me know so I can.
One thing you've got to learn, Nick, is that nobody tells commentators anything because they know that one slip of the tongue and it ends up on the bloody broadcast and the whole world knows about it.
Saying that, though, obviously, I met you for the first time in person, obviously in Diriyah, whilst you were talking to McLaren. So
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh, by the way, did you hear the word on the street that I can't tell you about? No, I actually haven't got anything on there at all. There's like fuel some wild rumor that
Right.
Anyway,
Nick, we're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid.
No worries.
So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you as always, guys. Jack, Picker, I'll catch up with you soon.
Yep.
Tom, I'll see you in, fingers crossed, a sunny Sao Paulo. We'll go to the beach.
see you then, mate. I look forward to it. I'll buy you an ice cream.
Thank you. I'll take an ice cream, to be honest. You buy the ice creams, I'll buy the beers.
In the pouring rain, fingers crossed.
You know what? I'll take it. It's still going to be 30 degrees. I'll take it.
Very Kenny in Malaysia-esque.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I love a Magnum. Perfect.
There you go.
that was Nick Golding from Racing News 365. There you go. Finally got it right. So what we're going to do actually before we wrap up the show, we've got another caller who's called in to ask a question. So I wanted to get Helen on. Helen, welcome to the FE Bar. What is your question for Tom?
Hello, evening, guys.
How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
We're very well.
Yeah, good.
Good. I've been saying for a few weeks I was going to come on and bottled it every single time, so it's nice to see
congratulations! You've made it for Tom.
We did it! We did it!
I feel honoured. Thank you so much.
No, it's all good. So my question for Tom was basically, if you're traveling to a circuit, you've got to go abroad, whatever, what would be your top 3 items that you would put in your bag besides your passport?
Yeah, that's generally an important one. Actually, as you know, I have left my passport on a plane once, and I had a very interesting conversation. Yeah. Oh, you've done that too, Pico?
Yeah, my last flight of season 8. I left it on the plane.
Good job. What happened to you? Did you get detained at passport control as well?
No, I got to passport control. I can't find it. Went round to the BA desk. I think I left it in the seat, and they went round and picked it up, and I was able to leave about half an hour later.
Sorry, we're going to go off on a tangent here, Helen. You got lucky there. What happened to me was I did the same thing, left it, and I'd had it out, and I was like, oh bugger, I've just left it in the pocket in the seat in front of me. Went to passport. The bloke said, look, go through to the American Airlines desk and see if you can sort it. And I was living in Spain at the time, so I'd missed my connection. I thought, oh, don't worry about it. Anyway, went there, said to the bloke, can you have a look? And he went, oh, well, they've kind of moved the plane now, and we're not really sure. And, you know, the wind's blowing from a northwesterly direction, so I don't think we can do it. And I was like, right, okay, fine. Anyway, so I then went back and I said to the bloke, like, they're not going to let me do it. He's like, look, go around there and give him a fucking sorry, excuse my French. give him a good C&2 and see, you know. And anyway, so I went around there and like, I don't like normally doing that, but dressed the bloke down. And then I walked back, and as I walked back, I looked in my bag and I was like, there's a secret compartment I didn't know was in here. I opened it. Passport. So I went back and I couldn't tell the truth. So I went to your man at the passport thing. I went, oh, you'll never guess what. Went back round there. Oh, they must have just dropped it off. Would you believe it? You know, so my passport was there. And then I went through passport control, all fine, back round to the American Airlines desk. Oh, mate, look, somebody must have handed it in from BA. I'm over at passport control because I've just got my passport all through. I'm so sorry for that. No, it's all fine. No. He was anyway. Then the best thing was I missed my connection to Spain. I managed to get a free connection back as well. So that was a good day by all accounts.
I would have just found my passport and ran. I was like, no embarrassment from leaving.
It's classic Britishism, isn't it? Sorry, going
back to your question. Back to the question.
Yeah. Sorry, I did go off. 3 things to take abroad with me. Okay. So, iPad, because I can't not watch something on a plane, because generally you find in-flight entertainment is a bit samey. I've been watching a lot of Clarkson's Farm recently in preparation for the new series, you know, because it's just a belter of a series. I love Grand Designs as well. I'm a real sucker for a bit of Kevin MacLeod. Started watching Breaking Bad again last night. Okay. Quite liking that. So, some good stuff there. I bought a Steam Deck this year so I can game as well. I'm really enjoying that. I'm playing Grand Theft Auto 5 again. So, that's a bit of an essential at the moment. And lastly, my noise-cancelling headphones. I couldn't travel without them because doing long-haul flights is... Everyone thinks traveling's glamorous, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit there and say it's as terrible as stacking shelves at Tesco or anything like that, but after a while, long-haul flights do get pretty tedious. So having noise-cancelling headphones to deal with the screaming children and Kurun Chandoks on the plane, it generally kind of helps just to make life that little bit more bearable, really.
There we go. Helen, thank you so much for being on the FE bar. Really appreciate it.
No worries, thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Helen, I'm trying to place your accent.
I'm from
You sound like a
near
Geordie
Newcastle.
lad.
Yeah,
Newcastle.
not far from Newcastle.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's from the tune.
From the tune.
Up the tune.
Nice.
Yep.
I can't do it. I can't do
That's
it.
so
I can't
bad,
do
I
it,
know,
Geordie
I know.
accent.
No,
So
no,
no.
I can
I'd
do.
give
I
it a
can
go.
do. I can
Why
do
are you
generic
know?
Northern.
I
Yeah,
would.
What
there we
are
are.
you talking about? I can't do it. I can't.
I
No,
can
no.
do. The thing is, I can only do generic Northern, but one thing I'm really good at is West Country because I watched Hot Fuzz too many times. Like,
What? Everyone of them mums is patting around here.
yeah. All it takes me is no luck catching them killers, then, and then I'm just straight into the accent. Like no tomorrow. It just doesn't. It's just there.
You've just got to do a West Country accent. I can't help it. I can't. It's... Well, I tell you what, Picker, we'll have a cider after this, shall we?
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Will we now?
I see you're on the Aspel. That's a good shout, that.
Yeah, nice. Love it.
We went off on a tangent again,
yeah,
didn't
no,
we?
we
Sorry.
did. Helen, thank you so much.
Helen, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And then last but not least, we've got Edward Hunter, who's been vetting all the questions and making sure everyone's been really good. But he had a question that he wanted to ask. Ed, what was your question?
Hi everyone. Thanks. I want to say first off, thanks for coming on, Tom. I've missed most of this because I've been managing the waiting room. It's been pretty weird, but everyone's had a good time, and it sounds like the interviews went well. I don't know. I have to hear back afterwards, but I didn't really have a question. I wanted to just say that Tom, you've completely forgotten about this because it was years ago, but back in I think it was 2016, I was doing commentary on Formula E esports sort of champion. It was the qualifiers for the $1 million race in Vegas. Yes, the Road to Vegas they called it. And I sent you some highlights that I'd done of it, me commentating, and I was awful because of course I was. And
so was I back in 2016. So don't worry about it, mate.
Well, no, but
like,
you
I'm
were
not saying
doing
you've improved
Gran
much now, to
Turismo
be
at the
completely
time.
honest. So,
So whereas I was a volunteer, it was a Spanish company I think called Cloud Sport that was running it, and they were like, "Oh, we'll just get anyone on who can speak English," basically. So that was the prerequisite for it, and I was rubbish because all the cars, they didn't really have liveries. It was all generic liveries, so it was hard to tell who anyone was. But I sent you the footage, and I remember you gave me some really good advice. Like, don't say, "Oh, I think that's so-and-so. I think that's Gregor Hutu." Ever say, "That's Gregor Hutu." That's always a good place to start from, in a place of confidence, I guess. And yesterday, it was yesterday, I was doing some commentary for Formula Sim Racing Pro. I did a whole, 90-minute race completely on my own with no one supporting me. And I was exhausted by the end of it, but I thought, wow, I did okay. So I think it's thanks in part to you that I'm not a completely atrocious commentator these days. So
Well,
if nothing else, I want to thank you for that.
Oh, thanks, Edward. I really appreciate that.
That
mate.
cost you
honestly,
nothing doing that.
Well, thank you. It's it means a lot, and like I always want to try and help people if I can, and I've been doing this job for how old am I now? I'm 27. So I've been doing it nearly
Years younger
10,
than me, mate.
Yeah, I've been doing it nearly 10 years now of commentary, and then radio.
Actually, only 1 year now because it was your birthday on Friday, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was. Yeah, I'm now officially in my late 20s, which I'm not entirely sure how I feel.
Welcome to the party.
Don't.
You've got just under a year to complete the 27 club. So
the 20. What you as in you mean what? Do a Jimi Hendrix?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's advisable, Pico. To be honest with you,
I don't think it's
I'll be
the
honest.
word.
I've worked quite hard to get to this job. I'm not sure I fancy that quite so soon. But food for thought at least.
Yeah.
I hate to break this, by the way, but there's been a cursor on PK's face for the entire second half of this stream.
That's my fault. That's my fault.
I'll be honest. I haven't even been looking at that. Oh,
I did try and get a message to chat.
Yeah, I can't come off this screen. So
I see.
I
Yeah,
can't come off this screen.
Yeah, no, you
Apologies.
should have messaged me, mate.
No,
I didn't. I don't have that kind
I've
of.
moved it now for the final 2 minutes. So great, grand. Good. Oh, well, I didn't notice it.
I get 2 minutes of looking all right on camera.
2 minutes looking all right.
All I need.
Ed, thank you so much, and thank you so much for the kind words to Tom as well. Massively
no worries.
appreciate it.
I mean, kind words to you too as well. I mean,
yeah,
you guys manage things fairly well.
Also, Ed, thank you for managing the waiting room
and making sure everyone was on their best behaviour.
Thanks, Ed. Much appreciated. Good to
I seem to know pretty much everyone apart from a couple that I didn't know quite as well, but they were nice and we got on well, I think.
Nice, excellent.
It's us three.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Before we
Right,
go,
cheers.
before we wrap up here, I had two more questions actually that I'm going to kind of merge them into one just before we go, Tom. I wanted to kind of just get your thoughts on the races this year, because obviously we had 3 races. We had a kind of crazy season, and then we haven't had, in terms of Formula E standards, they've not been the most entertaining you could put in Crackett's races. Do you think that will change this season? And then the last thing, just to squeeze it in terms of the person you've worked with in the FE commentary box, is there anyone who's been a favourite, or anyone you've been enjoyed working with, or the quirks, or any funny stories from Dario or Karun that you can potentially share?
Okay, so first of all, do I think the races will get a bit more Formula-y, as it were? Yes, I do. Obviously, they are kind of bound by what energy allowance the FIA gives. So if they give too much, which they generally kind of have a little bit at the start of this year, then you're going to get flat-out races like we had in Mexico. Also, the problem with Mexico is you don't have a particularly big braking zone anywhere.
Yeah.
So it kind of spoils any overtaking opportunities. Dirio was a bit more interesting, but the problem is race 1 was flat out, race 2 was a lap shorter, so it was even more flat out. From what I understand, having looked at the energy allowance for Sao Paulo, it's likely to be a more sort of peloton style race. Hopefully they're able to find that. It's always trying to find that balance, isn't it, between making it kind of one way or the other, and sort of hopefully getting somewhere in the middle of it. So I hope so, because we all want to see Formula E races. You know, if we look back to what we had in Gen 2, we had some absolute corkers, and I'd love to see that again. So fingers crossed, in all honesty, but it depends on what happens. Also, we've got the element of attack charge coming in for Mazzano as well. So let's see what's going to happen with that and what sort of dynamic that's going to add. All I know is from a commentary perspective, it's going to be absolute chaos, most likely. And forgive me, I've forgotten the second part of your question.
What was a funny story, maybe, or someone that you've really enjoyed working with from in the commentary box? So either Dario, Karun, or even Alan McNish back in the first times. Like, any funny story to tell, anything interesting that's happened in the commentary box, or just a favourite, someone you've really enjoyed working with over your short stint so far with Formula E?
Rapport's really important in commentary. It's the most important element of a good commentary broadcast, I think, is the rapport with your co-commentator. It doesn't really matter what you know or whatever, it matters who you get on with, because if you don't get on with the person, then generally I find that it's not going to gel so well. In terms of people that I've enjoyed working with, I've enjoyed working with everybody. Everybody's been great. Everyone's got their own unique quirks and strengths and so on and so forth. I really enjoy Dario just as a bloke. I think he's great. Same with Karun, and same with Alan actually as well. Alan is very, very funny. It's quite interesting how you hear him on air and he's very, very serious, and then you get him, you know, afterwards for a beer, and he's actually genuinely just hilarious. So that's quite entertaining. Also, really enjoyed working with James Rossiter earlier this year as well. In particular, he was really funny. And you know, given his recent experience and obviously things not ending necessarily that harmoniously at Maserati, I was a bit worried about what sort of his insight was going to be like and how jaded, so to speak, he was going to be. But actually, he was absolutely fine and consummate professional and just a really, really nice bloke. And also, I haven't got it on at the moment, but I've got this Whoop fitness tracker, which you'll notice pretty much everyone in FE has. And he recommended me and got me a free month for that. So as far as I'm concerned, he's all right by me. Other than that, any funny stories? Do you know, I haven't really had any sort of opportunity to explore any of the cities to get any funny stories. The only thing that was entertaining about Dirio after the event was we all went to this shawarma place, which was highly, highly recommended because Vernon Kay went there last year and basically ended up ordering the whole bloody restaurant's worth of food. Anyway, we ended up going to another branch of the same one, which resulted in a 45-minute wait for food and a lot of confusion, and we ended up eating it outside, and everyone's food was cold. So it wasn't particularly entertaining, but, you know, also, we couldn't have a beer there because that's the law in Saudi. So I think when we can have a few beers in Sao Paulo, things might get a little bit more lively, let's say.
We'll have to get you back on to find out.
On the FE bar.
If I had a nice bottle of Asphalt every time I was broadcasting, mate, I wouldn't last 5 minutes, let alone 5 races. Do you know, I have said though, right, and I don't know if this is ever going to fly, Formula E after dark, right? What we do is end of season. This won't go anywhere except internally, I reckon. Yes. But we get everybody really, really drunk, like after party, London, end of season, award ceremony drunk, right? Then what we do is we haul them into, commentary and prayers, and we just get everybody to do like a mock show just for half an hour.
I've got the jacket for it, so yeah.
I was just about to say that is a jazzy looking number. I thought that was your chair
No. It's my jacket. I wore it in the first show.
Did you buy it in a power cut or something? Goodness, honestly,
tell them the story.
I bought it for £3 at a charity shop in Swanage.
What, you paid for it?
Yeah, £3.
£3, bargain, mate. So something
brilliant.
If that honestly, that makes like Jimmy Carr's teeth look yellow.
Yeah,
that's horrendous.
Yeah, I know.
Brilliant.
One question that I just wanted to end on. Let's say there's someone who's watching this, wants to become a commentator. What's the best piece of advice that you could give to them?
Best piece of advice I could give to any commentator is be persistent, be reliable, and be a sponge. Those are 3 bits of advice that have held me in very good stead over the years. You've got to be persistent because sometimes you're going to get knocked back from opportunities and they're not always going to come your way, and you've got to work bloody hard for them and keep the faith when you think your chips are down. Be reliable. If you've got a gig, stick to that gig. Don't go and sack it off because something bigger has come along at the last minute. You will get further in this industry being reliable and being the person that people want to call because you have been reliable, rather than having an opportunity and then say something bigger comes along, bigger in quotation mark comes along, and you take, short-term gain for long-term pain, because once your reputation is ruined, you're only ever as good as that. And once that's gone, you've got nothing. And be reliable, and be a sponge. Soak everything up, learn everything, go in with the right attitude, learn everything you can. Go in there, write things down, meet people, introduce yourself to people. It might be uncomfortable. It's still uncomfortable for me. I find it really tricky sometimes going over and talking to people because of social anxiety. And I know that sounds really odd given what I do for a living, but genuinely, I do find it quite awkward, and I have to really sometimes psych myself up to be, do you know what? No, you're here to do a bloody job. Get the job done. So be a sponge, learn everything you can, and just do it to the best of your ability. And lastly, enjoy it. That's what it's there for. This is, as far as I'm concerned, it is the best job in the world, and I'm so lucky to be able to do it, and I enjoy every second.
Tom, it's been an absolute privilege having you on. Thank you so much. Because when we were talking, it wasn't supposed to be the full 2 hours, but the fact that you've done the full 2 hours and you've spoken to all these fans live, and I'm appreciative to every one of you who have come on live and spoken to Tom. It's made the show. So thank you to everyone in chat and everyone who's been here and has been part of it. Tom, pleasure. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
It's been great. Thank you. The 2 Jacks. Jack squared, is it? I don't know.
Jack squared.
Whatever you refer to it.
9 times out of 10, I get called Pico because it's too confusing to have 2 Jacks. Yeah.
That's a good. I called you Jack earlier, and I was like, "Oh crap, there's another Jack."
Yeah.
But look, anyway, thank you guys so much. It's genuinely been a real pleasure. Thank you to everybody who's asked some questions as well. I still consider myself so incredibly lucky to be able to do what I do, and genuinely, I don't think I deserve the attention that I get sometimes. So thank you all so much for that. It really does mean a lot, and I'm looking forward to Sao Paulo. I'm looking forward to doing the rest of the season. And I hope that you enjoy it at home as much as I do as well.
Perfect. And fingers crossed, maybe we'll have you back one day.
For sure. No problem at all. Right.
That is it, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've been the FE Bar. And we will catch you in 2 weeks' time for a review of the Sao Paulo E-Prix and discussing everything about that. We will see you then. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.